Hello everyone. In the previous lecture, we discussed the definitions of management, styles of management, functions of management, and we discussed also why or the reasons why management in healthcare sector is different from management in other sectors. We also talked about differences between management and leadership and the core competences of management and of managers and leaders in the healthcare organizations. In this lecture, we will talk about strategic planning in healthcare. Strategic planning in healthcare simply it involves creating objectives and setting goals for where the organization, we mean here the healthcare organization, sees itself in the long term. Okay, so with these goals and objectives in mind, the healthcare organization can establish or can create a plan to achieve those goals and objectives. Okay, and strategic planning in healthcare is very important and critical for the health organizations to succeed, and it depends on an understanding on the way that the organization operates. Okay, so understanding how healthcare organization operates is an important element for creation of an effective strategic plan for the entire healthcare system to succeed. So we will talk about the strategic planning in healthcare in more details in this lecture. The learning objectives of this lecture. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to describe strategic planning and strategic planning process. You will be able also to discuss the importance of strategic planning as a dynamic process in healthcare organizations, identify healthcare market powers and trends, and understand their potential impact on health services. Also, you'll be able to describe strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. Also, you'll be able to identify methods to monitor and control strategy execution and identify the role of manager in the strategic planning process. So, what is strategic planning? Every organization needs to be successful over the long term in order to survive. A critical factor leading to that success lies in how well an organization can plan for the future and tap market opportunities. So, as we mentioned in the introduction, strategic planning mainly involves setting goals and objectives, and it allows the managers to see how they need their organization to achieve in the future. So, strategic planning is the process of identifying a desired future state for an organization and a means to achieve this state or these objectives. Strategic planning is the systematic and organized process whereby an organization creates a document. So, by the way, strategic planning can be, it involves a document indicating the way it plans to progress from its current situation to the desired future situation. So, as you can see in the slide, there are several definitions for strategic planning. All of them mainly include or the common elements among these definitions are is identifying a desired future state for an organization and the way to achieve the objectives or goals that have been placed in this particular document. Through an ongoing analysis of the organization's operating environment matched against its own internal capabilities, an organization's leadership is able to identify strategies that will drive the organization from its present condition to that desired future state. So, as we mentioned in our introduction, putting strategic plan in the healthcare organization needs an understanding of the operating environment or how the healthcare institution operates, and it's a key element in putting strategic or in the strategic planning process. And strategic planning process also needs an understanding of the internal capabilities of the organization, and we will talk about that, and when we will talk about SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Healthcare managers at all levels need to understand the purpose of strategic planning, its benefits and challenges, the key factors for its success, and their vital role in the process. You can identify the importance and significance of strategic planning in any organization, not only healthcare organizations. So, in any organization's operating environment, there are market forces that will influence the future success of that organization. So, only by identifying these forces and planning for ways to adapt to them, the organization or can an organization achieve the greatest success. So, the purpose and the importance of strategic planning in any organization, including healthcare organization, is to identify market forces and how they may affect the organization, and to determine the appropriate strategic direction for the organization to take that will counteract those forces and or tap their potential. So, although no one can predict the future, in strategic planning, the managers and healthcare organizations can systematically think about it. That's why it's strategic planning was given this name, because it's looks for the future, looks for the desired state in the future for an organization. Okay. An important point also regarding strategic planning is related to resource allocation. So strategic planning serves to focus the organization and also its resource allocation. At any given point in time, there are multiple and often competing initiatives and projects to be undertaken in an organization. So strategic planning allows the healthcare organization to determine where to direct their resources. Okay. So by understanding the organization's operating environment and identifying a strategy to reach a desired future state, resources can be allocated appropriately and effectively. This is the main idea of strategic planning, where the managers need to understand the operation environment or the operating environment of the organizations, and they need to identify a strategy to reach a desired future state based on this operating environment, so that the managers can allocate the available resources in an appropriate and effective manner. So why should healthcare organizations use strategic planning? Does it matter? Strategic planning in healthcare organizations entails taking proactive steps toward a goal, not just addressing immediate problems as they arise. There are two important characteristics in the healthcare sector that makes strategic planning as an essential aspect in healthcare organizations. Firstly, increasingly informed, demanding, and non-loyal clients who have the capacity to choose among or between different healthcare providers or different healthcare services. Secondly, increasingly professional and skilled competitors. So the system of resident physicians, access to updated knowledge and continuous training have led to the following. now it's increasingly easy to find highly qualified trained professionals outside the major centers of large cities, and the high level of specialization and excellence among these professionals is increasingly widespread. So the main idea is there are a lot of competition in the healthcare sector that makes strategic planning as an important or essential element that need to be performed in healthcare organizations. Here in this slide you can see the other factors that make strategic planning in health care organizations matter. Limited resources for production, and a possible response to this situation is the increased obligation to allocate resources on a rational basis, allowing only the best and most efficient health organizations to remain. Also, shift in the focus of healthcare organizations toward client rather than process or service. So these days what matters is not only what but how. So health organizations no longer simply focus on carrying out the processes to the best of their ability, but on achieving patient satisfaction and obtaining the best results possible. And we talked about that when we mentioned the triple aim in healthcare in the previous lectures. Also, strategic planning in healthcare organization is important due to size and complexity of healthcare organizations, which results from increases in the size of population, increase in their demands, increase in their needs, increase in diagnostic and treatment options offered, which led to physical growth in the size of health organizations, increased organizational complexity. This organizational complexity could also occur due to need to act in collaboration with the primary care in relation to a range of diseases, especially chronic ones. So all these circumstances that we have mentioned in the previous slide clearly affect health organizations, immersing them in an environment of constant and sudden change, both in their external and internal circumstances. And we already talked about these pressures and these external influences and internal influences in the previous lectures, and the constant reforms in the healthcare sectors. In these circumstances, strategic planning is fully applicable tool that is both useful and relevant to the health organization. And if strategic planning is not conducted, then in a few years, health organizations could become irrelevant or even cease to exist. So, regarding the strategic planning process, it consists mainly of two interrelated activities: the development of strategic plan and execution of the organization's strategy. The development of the plan is most often done with a multi-year time horizon, every 3 to 5 or 10 years, and it's updated annually. However, strategy execution is done on a continuous basis and is the critical factor in management of the organization's strategic intentions, optimally providing continual feedback for the development of any future plans. Based on what we have mentioned in the previous slide, strategic planning is a dynamic and not linear process. We have this type of analysis, which is SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, provides a foundation for strategy development. This analysis serves two important functions: to gather a snapshot of how the organization is currently interacting with the market in comparison to the internal capabilities and intended strategic direction of the organization, and to identify market opportunities and threats that the organization may want to address in future strategic efforts. So, and we'll talk about this analysis in details in the coming slides. Regarding SWOT definition or analysis, strengths are the factors that are likely to have a positive effect on or be an enabler to achieving the clinic's objectives or healthcare providers' objectives or healthcare organization objectives. Weaknesses are factors that are likely to have a negative effect or a barrier to achieving the clinic's objectives. Opportunities are the external factors that are likely to have a positive effect on achieving or exceeding the clinic's objectives or goals not previously considered. and threats are external factors and conditions that are likely to have a negative effect on achieving the clinic's objectives or making the objective redundant or unachievable. Okay, so we can see in according to these definitions that opportunities and threats, or let's say strengths and weaknesses, are internal to the healthcare organizations or healthcare providers, and opportunities and threats are external factors. Okay. In this slide you can see an example of SWOT analysis. You can see strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and examples on each of these. For example, strengths like special expertise, reputation, cost advantages, technology advantages. Weaknesses, for example, limited service lines, marketing deficiencies, and management of staff problems. Opportunities include new technology, lack of dominant competition, new markets or services. Threats such as new or increased competition, changes in insurance plans, adverse demographic changes, adverse government policies, economic slowdowns. All these can be considered as a threat to the healthcare organization and should be included in the SWOT analysis. Regarding the planning process, through analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats, strategy identification can begin. In this stage, the organization's leadership team uses the information provided in the SWOT analysis to identify specific strategies that may be worthy of pursuit, either to grow the organization or to protect current areas of strength. Once these strategies have been identified, they must be narrowed down to a manageable number through selection and prioritization, and tactical implementation plans must be created. With the strategic plan completed, operating, marketing, and other supporting plans are developed. Control and monitoring of the plan follows and is most effectively done on an ongoing basis throughout the year. So, regarding SWOT analysis, the initial planning phase is often referred to as a SWOT analysis, as it aims to identify the internal strengths and weaknesses of an organization along with external market opportunities and threats. It includes three distinct but intricately related components, which are the market assessment, the statement of the mission, vision, and values of the organization, and the organizational assessment. So, as we discussed previously, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis is or consists of three components: assessment of market forces, statements of mission, vision, and values, and organizational assessment. So, the information gleaned regarding the interaction of five forces or five market forces that we have already discussed, which are healthcare workforce, or the power of the healthcare workforce, power of consumers and payers, innovations in technology, regulatory environment, and competitive rivalry in the market, is matched against the organization's mission, vision, and values statements. As the driving purpose of the organization, the mission, vision, and values are reviewed as part of the strategic planning process to ensure they continue to be aligned with the organization's future market environment and to help identify future desired strategic directions. The mission of any organization is its enduring statement of purpose. It aims to identify what the organization does, whom it serves, and how it does it. As an example, Radiologics, it's a radiology services company, strives to be the premier provider of diagnostic imaging services through high quality service to patients, referring physicians, and mutually beneficial relationships with radiologists who provide expert interpretations of diagnostic images. This is only an example. So in the previous slide we discussed the definition of mission, and we mentioned an example on the mission of a particular healthcare organization. On the other hand, a vision statement strives to identify a specific future state of the organization, usually an inspiring goal for many years down the road. For example, the vision of the American Hospital Association is of a society of healthy communities where all individuals reach their highest potential for health. Finally, the values statement should help define the organization's culture, what characteristics it wants employees to convey to customers. For example, an example of a value from Duke University Health System in North Carolina is, we earn the trust our patients place in us by involving them in their healthcare planning and treatment and by exceeding their service expectations. Although the mission statement is generally the most, let's say, constant or stable of among mission, vision, values statements, however, these statements are needed to be modified according to the surrounding environment, according to the market activity. Let's say, as an example for this, the emergence of the concept of consumerism in healthcare. What is the meaning of consumerism in healthcare? It's a movement that advocates patients' involvement in their own healthcare decisions. Okay, so the emergence of consumerism in the healthcare industry drove many organizations to revise their vision and value statements to become more customer service focused. As we also mentioned, reaffirming and or adjusting these three statements in relation to market activity is a critical step in determining the desired future state of the organization. In this lecture, we covered strategic planning in healthcare industry. In the next lecture, we will discuss quality and safety and clinical governance in the healthcare sector. Thank you.